what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going over some of my favorite magic combos, and we're going to go over some of the combos. We're going to go over how they work and why I like them so much. Anyways, yeah, so there are two types of combos we're going to talk about in today's video. The first type of combo is an A plus B combo. So they're two card combos that result in either an infinite combo or result in a winning position, is what I like to call it, where you have a board state or you kill your opponents that allow you to win the game. So we're going to take a look at an example of an A plus B combo. So Mana Echoes and Sliver Queen. So this results in infinite slivers, infinite mana, and infinite enter the battlefield triggers. So what you do, you have Sliver Queen out and Mana Echoes out. You activate Sliver Queen's ability to put a 1/1 sliver onto the battlefield. Then Mana Echoes will trigger. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may add an amount of colorless equal to the number of creatures you control that share a creature type with it. Now, at minimum, when you activate Sliver Queen, to get that 1/1 sliver, you will add 2 mana, which will allow you to activate Sliver Queen again, and this time it'll give you 3 mana because you have 3 slivers in play, and then every time you activate this, you get a 1/1 sliver and an additional mana. So this gives you infinite mana, infinite slivers, and then of course if you have anything that triggers when slivers enter, like a lava belly sliver, or you have anything that buffs your slivers or gives them haste, you win the game on that turn. Otherwise, you just wait till next turn, swing out with your slivers, and you win the game. So it's an example of an A plus B combo. We have some more examples of those that I really like. We have Heliod Suncrown plus Walking Ballista. This results in infinite damage and you gaining infinite life. So Heliod Suncrown has an ability, another target creature gains lifelink until end of turn for 2 mana. And it also says when you gain life, you put a counter on target creature or enchantment you control. So you play Walking Ballista, must be X equals 2 or more, so it comes in with 2 counters. Then you give it lifelink with the Heliod, and then you remove a counter to deal 1 damage to any target. When you deal 1 damage to any target, because Walking Ballista now has lifelink, you'll gain life, which will put another counter on the Walking Ballista, and you can do this as many times as you want, killing all your opponent's creatures, killing your opponent, doing whatever you like. So as you remove a counter, you will deal damage, gain a life, put a counter back on, which will allow you to remove a counter, deal another damage, gain another life, and put another counter back on. So it's an infinite process, allows you to deal infinite damage and gain infinite life. This sees play in a lot of commander decks as the win con, but also it sees play in modern. There used to be a collected company deck that plays this, but there's a few other decks that use this as their win con, like Enchantress. Next, we have Splinter Twin. This is like the most famous A plus B combo. It was a huge modern deck that got banned. So you don't know, this results in infinite haste creatures. So you cast your Pestermite at the end of your opponent's turn, and then on your turn you cast Splinter Twin. Enchanted creature has tap, put a token that's a copy of this creature onto the battlefield, except this token has haste. So what you do is put Splinter Twin on Pestermite. You tap Pestermite to put a token copy of Pestermite into play. Now Pestermite says when it enters the battlefield, you may tap or untap target permanent. So you will untap the original Pestermite, tap it again, make another copy, and then that another copy will untap the original Pestermite, and you get to do this because every copy you make of Pestermite will untap Pestermite, allowing you to make another copy which will untap Pestermite, and you make infinite haste copies that are 2/1s. Deceiver Exarch is another one that works, but they're 1/4s, so a little less sexy, but you know, a 2/1, you make 10 of them, you can kill your opponent if you are playing a game modern. You know, you can make 80 of these if you need to. The only downside is there are cards that punish you for making tons of tokens, like Rakdos Charm. So if you make like 40 tokens and someone Rakdos Charms you, you lose the game. But Splinter Twin plus Pestermite, pretty classic combo. I really enjoy it. And then, of course, you know, because Pestermite has flash, you can do it at the end of your opponent's turn, and then just untap and combo off. Next combo is a little bit Worse than Splinter Twin. Most of these combos are going to be worse than Splinter Twin. It's Traumatized plus Fraying Sanity. I like this combo because it mills your opponents out. So Traumatized, target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into his or her graveyard. So let's just say someone has, I don't know, 46 cards left, right? You Traumatize, they mill 23 of them. Okay, that's a lot of cards to mill. Now, Fraying Sanity says, at the beginning of each instep, enchanted player mills X cards, where X is the number of cards put into their graveyard from anywhere this turn. So let's say they start the turn out with 46 cards, you Traumatize, they mill 23, and if you have Fraying Sanity out, they will mill 23 at their instep, causing them to mill out and lose the game. Pretty classic mill combo. I like it a lot. And there's other combos and there's other cards that work well with Fraying Sanity, but this one's just a classic one. Okay, so this one sees play in modern Bluetron and sees a lot of play in some Commander artifact decks. That this allows you in a 1v1 game to take control of all of an opponent's turns, or in a 4-player game can let you take control of whoever the biggest threat on the table is turns. So Mindslaver is a really cool card. 6 mana, 4 to activate, so 10 mana in total. You sacrifice it, you control target player during that player's next turn. So you see all cards that player could see, make all decisions for that player. You can attack whoever you want. You can tap out their mana. You can do whatever you want with them, right? So this is 10 mana for this effect, which is pretty expensive, but it could be game winning, the effect itself, right? But Academy Ruins, you can pay 2 mana, 1 in a blue, tap it to put target artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. So what you do is you activate Mindslaver, it goes to the graveyard, you activate Academy Ruins, put Mindslaver back on top, and now when it'll be your turn again, you can play and activate Mindslaver again, taking control of your opponent's turn yet again, and this will allow you to take control of all of your opponent's turn. Your opponents will not be able to make any game actions, and this will eventually mill them out, or you could just kill them by, I don't know, making them have bad attacks, bad blocks, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, Mindslaver plus Academy Ruins combo in 1v1 games allow you to take control of all of your opponent's turns, and that's why I like it so much. It's just a really, really fun combo. It does require 12 mana plus Academy Ruins, so that is a lot of mana. So 10 mana, 10 mana for Mindslaver, and then 12, so 2 more for the Academy Runes activation. So 12 mana in total plus Academy Runes, so pretty expensive, but with Tron lands you can get there. Anyways, that's the first type of combo, A plus B combos. We talked about some that I really like. We talked about Heliod Walking Ballista, Mana Echo Sliver Queen, Pestermite Splinter Twin, Traumatized Fraying Sanity, and Mindslaver Academy Ruins. Now we're going to talk about deck synergy combos. So this is a combo in which your deck building results in a card's ability or activation leading to a winning position or winning you the game. So let's read Goblin Charbelcher. For 4 mana, it's a artifact. You pay 3 and activate it. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. It deals damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to any target. If it's a mountain, you deal double. What if you have no lands in your deck? If you have no lands in your deck, you will reveal your entire deck and deal damage equal to the amount of cards that you reveal this way, which could be as much as, 40, 50 cards to your opponent. So there's a legacy deck called Charbelcher, and there's also a modern deck where they play no lands in their deck, and then they activate Charbelcher and kill your opponent. Now, you're thinking, okay, well, how do you cast and activate Charbelcher without any lands in your deck? There's 2 ways to do it. In Legacy and in Vintage, you just use lots of fast mana, so like Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, Ritual effects, Spirit Guide effects to cast this for free and without using any lands, and this allows you to do it on as early as turn 1 or turn 2. Now, in Modern, there's these special lands that were reprinted in Battle for Zendikar that on their front side are spells and on their back side are lands, so when they get revealed to Charbelcher, they count as spells. And so these are cards like Turn Timber Symbiosis or Shatter Skull Smashing. So in Modern, you play those lands, have them come into play on their backside as lands, and then play Charbelcher. You have no lands in your deck, and you just win. The downside to this is if your lands get destroyed by something above stage you have no basics to search, and of course your opponents can thought seize your lands. But you know, it's still a interesting strategy. I like it. Goblin Charbelcher with no lands in deck. A way to win the game. Next, we have Primal Surge, where your entire deck is permanents. So Primal Surge is 8 green and a green. You exile the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. And you repeat this process. So you basically, the card is intended to have you reveal the top card and put all permanents until you hit a non-permanent, right? But when your deck is only permanents, you will put every card from your deck into play. Now, it is a May ability, so you can stop whenever you want to so you don't mill out. But you put every card in your deck, from your deck, into play, which, you know, can win you the game many ways, or can put a lot of creatures into play so that next turn you can attack for the win. It's a really, really cool combo. All of your deck is now in play. It is 10 mana. That is a lot of mana, but it's still pretty fun. Next, we have Jocklehops plus Planeswalkers. So, Jocklehops is an older card. It's 6 mana. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. So, it does destroy all creatures and lands and artifacts, which is a pretty big effect. But notice, it does not say Planeswalkers, because this is an older card. It also does not say enchantments. So, in a Super Friends deck, Jocklehops will destroy all permanents except for your Planeswalkers and anybody else that plays Planeswalkers, and your enchantments or anybody else's enchantments. So in a Super Friends deck, the deck relies heavily on Planeswalkers and enchantments. Enchantments like Sphere of Safety, enchantments like Ghostly Prison and Propaganda to keep your opponent from attacking your Planeswalkers. And then you have your Planeswalkers that come in, gain you advantage, or potentially gain you creatures, or even win you the game in the long run. So, in a Super Friends deck, playing one Jocklehops, if you already have some Planeswalkers out, will make sure that everybody else has nothing while you have Planeswalkers on the board that allow you to win the game. So that's a pretty easy combo. I'm pretty sure every Super Friends deck that plays red plays Jocklehops. And there's a reason why. You know, a lot of Super Friends decks play Atraxa, the 4-color one, as their commander, and I think that's really good. You know, Proliferate's really good with Planeswalkers. But there's some pretty good Chandras, and Jocklehops is a really good card. So maybe, you know, a red Planeswalker deck or like a Jeskai Planeswalker deck might be the best just because of Jocklehops. Next, we have Living Death plus Cyclers. So, you basically, these big cards like Gloomfang Mauler or Troll of Khazad-dûm are just big threats, but they have cycling abilities which allow you to discard the card to either draw a card or search for a swamp in the case of these two. There's a lot of cards with cycling, and there's a lot of ways to mill yourself to put creatures in the graveyard. But these are just the easiest ways because you can just pay 1 mana, put them in the graveyard. You don't mill over your Living Death. So what you do, you play a lot of cards that have cycling or a lot of cards that have land cycling. You cycle them away in the early game, and then once you're able to cast Living Death, all the players will have to sacrifice their board, and then you will get all of the big creatures you cycled away back into play. This works similar to how Living End does in Modern, where you cascade into Living End and then get all of the card you cycled away back into play, and then your opponents are left with nothing. In Commander, though, I think Living Death is probably better, and of course, because you're not playing Cascade, you can Dark Ritual into Living Death. You can do all sorts of things, and there's also other cards that have similar effects to this, but this is a really cool synergy. Just cycle away things in the early game, and then on turn 5 Living Death, your opponents lose their board, and you get a big board. You could also do this with Violent Outburst and Living End, by the way, if you know how that combo works. And lastly, cheat out a suspend spell that wins the game. So this goes to the cycling plan. You can cheat out a spell specifically with suspend that has a 0 CMC. So the way this works is if you Cascade, so Cascade says when you play this spell, remove cards from the top of your library from the game until you remove a non-land card that costs less. So if all of your spells in your deck are 3 or more, except for the spell you want to hit, you will always hit that spell you want to hit. So in a situation where you're cycling away big creatures like Troll and Gloomfang Marauder, you can Violent Outburst into Living End to get those back. But this is another example that I really like that I thought was cool. You can Violent Outburst, and then all of your stuff is, more than 3 mana. You can also have Shardless Agent. You can also have Ardent Plea. A lot of things do this. And then you cascade into Hypergenesis, which says, starting with you, each player may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card from their hand onto the battlefield. Repeat this process until no one puts a card in the battlefield. Now, the reason I love this card is because it's political, but it's also really powerful. So obviously you get to put something into play. Okay. So you can put, an Eldrazi Titan into play, or a Planeswalker into play. Or you can't put a Planeswalker. You can put an Eldrazi Titan into play. You can put, Portal to Phyrexia into play. You can put a Grizzlebrand into play. Crater Hoofbeam, if anything you want, right? But then your opponents get to put something into play, and they have a choice to make. If they say, well, there's 3 other players, I can put something into play to get an advantage. But then everybody else gets to put something into play. Or I could just stop, not put anything into play, and not give the other players this advantage. So each player that's other than you has a choice to make. Do they put something into play and give the other players a chance to put something into play, possibly giving you another chance to put something into play? Or do they stop the cycle? Or can they stop the cycle, right? Do they have to put something into play to not lose the game? Or, maybe they can't put anything into play. So this is a really interesting card. I like the politics of it. I like the cascading. I like cascading into, these spells that you're not usually supposed to cast. And then Violent Outburst and Hypergenesis was a big deck in Modern. Hypergenesis got banned. But, a 5-color Cascade Hypergenesis deck, ooh, that seems really fun, actually. But you Violent Outburst into Hypergenesis, cheat something into play, and then your opponents get a really hard choice. And, maybe you get to put your whole hand into play, or maybe you get to put one thing. Who knows? But I think it's a fun deck idea, and I hope you like this. So anyways, we talked about A+B combos. We talked about some fun deck building combos. We talked about the Goblin Charbelcher with no lands. We talked about Primal Surge of all permanents in your deck. The Jockopops plus Planeswalker plan. The Living Death, cycle away things, bring them back. And then we talked about the Violent Outburst suspend with Hypergenesis or Living End too. Could be game-winning spells. There's also Restore Balance. You can Violent Outburst into that and just blow up people's lands, but I don't think that's as fun. And that doesn't win you the game like Hypergenesis or Living End does, so it's not as fun. Anyways, I hope you like these combos, and I hope you like this video. If you like it, make sure you press the like button and consider subscribing to the channel, checking out the other videos. Anyways, we'll see you next time. Bye.